This is the Scary Movie Clubcast.
Live from the clubhouse, it's Scary Movie Clubcast. This is Dahmer,
Mackenzie,
Nadine,
and Amanda.
And tonight we watched As Above, So Below. Nadine, what did you think of the movie?
I loved it. It had a very handsome leading man and a good plot. It's most of what I'm looking for. So, let's see. I would give it a solid 4.5 mole men. Top half of the other mole man.
Amanda?
I'm going to give it 3.5 mole men.
Which half?
The bottom half of the mole man.
Creepy. Burp.
creepier
We did learn that
than
Virgos were freaks and bad.
is a pair of legs walking around creepier than top half of body crawling around.
I don't know.
Well, you get the junk in the bottom. That's just a fact.
There's a lot of junk in the
This is
brain in top
biology.
half.
No, not with Mole Man. So,
It's not the type of junk I mean.
I will give it 4.5 out of 5 mole men. The half of the mole men I choose is like middle. And I really like that movie. The only thing that I don't like about it is I really freaking hate the main character.
yeah, same.
Lots of poor choices.
Many poor choices.
Did not think about other human beings at all.
No regard.
I would give it a solid 4 out of 5 Mole Men. Okay, this episode we're doing What's Your Sign? Murderer Edition.
Dun dun dun.
And we're going to start with Nadine and Mackenzie.
Yes,
Yes.
we are.
We have a great person.
Oh, wow.
You all shall not guess as easily as before.
That is the goal.
Okay, so this person is a Taurus. Yeah, Taurus. So they are a fixed earth sign. For Taurus, they're usually pretty ambitious, which I actually put in the yes and the no column about this person because I think that in certain ways it was true and in other ways, no.
Yeah.
They value honesty above all else.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's very true for this person.
I would agree with that. They're proud. They try to keep drama-free relationships. Kind of.
I don't know. I mean, I feel
Some.
like relationships wasn't really, like, a big part of...
Yeah. Who knows? Hard worker. Again,
I
that
don't
really
know.
could go either way. This person was a struggle in the sense of, like, dividing out their astrological chart because a lot of the things, it was like, it's a yes and a no. Like, in some ways you are and in some ways you are not. Let's see. So they always are seeking out pleasure. Yeah, that's pretty true of this person. Holds hard grudges against liars.
Yeah, that's
Crazy
really hard.
true.
Really true.
Detail-oriented, I guess. Trouble respecting authority.
Yeah.
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 Can be quick to write people off.
Yeah.
Hard yes. If they set a goal, they accomplish it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah, some.
Mostly yes.
Exactly. They're driven by their own internal compass. Definitely true of this person.
Yeah.
And they don't always consider other people's viewpoints. The things I put in a no that like are true about Taurus but not necessarily true about this person is being smart and trustworthy. I don't consider this person smart and I don't think anyone would consider them trustworthy.
Right.
So that was their sun sign. Their moon sign, which is basically like the way that they emotionally process things, is Capricorn. So being a Capricorn moon means that that's the cardinal earth sign, so they double down on earth. Earth signs are sensual.
You may need
Looking at
pause.
you, Amanda. Determined. Doesn't want to be codependent at all. I would say that's true of this person. Takes initiative.
Yes.
Yeah. Wants others to prove worthy of their time.
Yes.
True. This crazy person. They have, like, endurance for the long haul. I guess so. Things that were true of, like, Capricorn moon, but I did not feel like were true of this person were being willing to hold out for better, being disciplined, and admiring self-mastery, and loyalty. They're not loyal.
Yeah, definitely not loyal.
No. Their rising sign, which is basically, like, what you, like, put out to the world, your ascendant. They are a Scorpio, which is a fixed water sign. So they had 2 that were earth, and now they have 2 that are fixed signs. So being a fixed water sign, Scorpios, people are often like, they're basically ice. Water signs are usually emotional. For Scorpios, they tend to be like intimate and magnetic, which is true of this person, like, to some people. To some people, they seem to, like, feel like this person was magnetic, but not in, like, a general sense. I don't think so. Conceals emotions, intense, sometimes, like, a walking contradiction. Oh, and then the last thing that I had for, like, a yes for Scorpio rising was for them to be strategic. And then I wrote down this quote from something that I found. It said, "You are highly intuitive and you read a situation on many levels before acting. Sometimes you hold back, allowing others to reveal themselves and their true motives. You know when to observe and when to strike." Yeah. The things that I put as, like, a hard no is being seductive and soulless. This person's not either of those things.
But are
it's
they
not
like
either.
a stalker?
No, well,
To some extent.
to some
Giving
extent.
hints. Okay.
Yes. So that is their birth chart.
Okay,
Questions?
so this person is super honest, doesn't like liars,
And then they're not loyal.
No.
So like they'll flip on
and
you.
not
Yeah.
seductive.
Yeah, definitely not loyal.
Yeah, not loyal. And
Not seductive. It doesn't really, seduction doesn't have much to do with it.
Yeah, no,
if
no.
anything
Seduction
at
doesn't
all.
have much to do with it. It's just a fact about this
It's just
person.
fact about this person.
Which, I mean, I haven't met them. Maybe they have
Maybe
a
there's
personality that pulls it out, but not from
Did
what
they
I've
have a
seen.
partner?
No, not in this crime. They did.
They
in this
acted
crime.
alone.
What were the attributes that did apply to them?
Being proud, always seeking out pleasure, holds hard grudges against liars.
Yeah, that is a very big.
Let's
And liars may not necessarily be liars, but who they would perceive as a liar.
can be quick to write people off.
Like, it may not be, like, necessarily someone that, like, everyone's like, oh, that person's a liar, but, like, this person in particular was like, you are a liar.
Driven by their own internal compass. Don't always consider the viewpoints of others. I have a hint that I can give anytime you guys want a hint.
Yeah. And it's a pretty well-known crime. I mean,
Oh yeah, you'll know.
like, you'll know. Even
won't
if
be
you
like,
don't,
"Oh, I haven't heard of this crime."
even if you don't know the person's name necessarily, you definitely know the crime.
Yeah.
It's pretty huge.
So they killed someone important.
They did kill someone
Lee
important.
Harvey Oswald?
No.
Did
But
they
it's a
kill
cer-
Kennedy?
That's
That
Lee
was
Harvey
Lee Harvey
Oswald.
Oswald.
I don't know his
What's
names.
in a Patricia? So they killed someone
What
important.
time period?
It's the 80s.
There was no one important in the 80s.
There was important people in the 80s.
Did they kill a celebrity?
They did kill a celebrity.
I don't know
Guys,
any.
let me give you my hint
Okay, what was your
So
hint,
I wanna
Nadine?
think first.
before you get it right.
No, I want to think first.
It
What
is.
celebrity was caught
I don't think
inside?
that you're
I
gonna
keep
get it.
trying to think.
If it
You
makes
keep
any
busting
difference,
into my
it's not,
thoughts.
it's not a good hint. Like, I don't think that you're gonna get it from the
no,
hint.
hold on. I'm thinking.
It's a
makes
male.
me
The
happy.
man is a killer, or the killer's a man.
Oh my, why does Mackenzie get to give hints?
Well, I don't
get to
know.
give my
Because she didn't ask for permission, just
You're never gonna
forgiveness.
have time to think about who this person who was assassin in the 80s was.
Assassin of the 80s. Give your hint, Nadine.
I have to wait for
I don't want it.
Was it in the U.S.?
Yes.
Yes.
It was in a major city in the U.S.
Died
But Amanda, once you get your person
Yes,
in
they
mind,
did.
your guess, don't say it. Let me give you my hint, and then you can say it anyway. We all know you're super honest and wouldn't lie if you had the wrong person.
Think about any singers.
It is 1980. Just to
Lena
clarify.
did just.
Give a big hint.
Oh,
Lena was not
There's a
wrong.
singer who.
oh yeah, I know.
Okay, give your hint then, because I think that Amanda's
Are you ready
there.
for my hint?
Sure.
Okay, so like when it says that they do not like liars, this person would not call that person a liar. There's something else specific that they would call them, and it ties
Phony.
into the crime. They would call
John
them a
Lennon.
phony.
The assassination of John Lennon. I
Yeah.
don't know the name of the guy who killed him.
Who was
Yeah.
John Lennon?
Oh,
He's a member, he's
Not
a member of the
again, Lena.
Beatles.
We-
You
Lena,
learned
already
this
asked this
tonight.
question this evening.
Oh, I didn't know he was killed.
Lena.
He
Okay,
was
okay.
murdered,
So
yeah.
there's John Lennon was murdered in December of 1980.
Oh.
And the
December
guy who
9th.
killed him
I would have never gotten
was
this
a big
one.
fan of Catcher in the Rye.
So
And he was like, phonies.
Well-
You're a phony.
So Mark David Chapman, I'll give you some background, Lena.
Okay.
This, I will say, this research was really hard for me to do as a huge Beatles fan. I've never, like, looked into it too much because it just is, like, too emotional for me. But I did for a podcast. I looked into most of it except for the actual, like, death because I can't do it. Mark David Chapman was a big Beatles fan, like, growing up, but he started growing angry with John after his lifestyle statements against God and religion. For example, John Lennon made a statement in the 60s saying the Beatles are more popular than Jesus, which nowadays probably no one would even bat an eye, but at the time it was a statement of like declining Christianity rates and how people were paying a lot more attention to celebrity and them specifically than they were religion.
It was mostly
Idolism.
like an offhanded comment. Like,
Yeah, and it got blown out of proportion. So he got angry with that statement, and John Lennon's songs, specifically God and Imagine. God is a song that John wrote, and you can look up the lyrics. It's just like a statement about not really believing in anything but like yourself. And Imagine, everyone knows the song Imagine. And so that whole thing about liars and lying was Mark David Chapman felt like he was lying because he was singing all these things about not having material goods and possessions, but he was super rich from having all that Beatles money. Mark David Chapman was himself a born-again Christian, and at the time of the murder had no previous criminal charges. So leading up to the murder, he had developed a series of obsessions, including famously Catcher in the Rye, like Amanda mentioned. Catcher in the Rye is like roped in with this crime.
It's like a crazy famous book about Holden Caulfield, and he is a teenager who he's suffering from severe depression in the book, and it's like written from his perspective, and he's like a 17-year-old boy basically, or like in his teens, and so it's written like as if like
A teenage boy.
Yeah, and so
He's
it's
like depressed and moody.
so he's like, F these phonies, this F that phony, this phony that. It's very good though once you're like older. This is such an accurate depiction of depression. It's a very good book.
Okay.
Yeah. So he became obsessed with Holden Caulfield, like that character, and like pretty much started designing his life. Like he wanted to literally become that character to the point where he like in Catcher in the Rye he signed a copy that was, "This is my manifesto, Holden Caulfield." Like he like was having kind of a delusion of like that was him. Famously at the crime scene, he was reading Catcher in the Rye, even at the crime scene. Like he contemplated killing other public figures, including Paul McCartney, which is another member of the Beatles, Johnny Carson, Elizabeth Taylor, Ronald Reagan, and Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis. He picked John Lennon out of pure convenience. I mean,
he knew he was going to be
he knew where he was.
he knew out there for the interview or whatever.
Well, he knew that he lived at the Dakota. It wasn't necessarily like specifically I just have to kill John Lennon, but it was like,
when we say convenient, we're using it as like a relative term because he did come all the way from Hawaii to do this.
yes, he
Wow.
lived in Hawaii. So he was in Hawaii, but convenient in a like John didn't have like a team of people around him like Ronald Reagan.
United States. He's
Yeah.
not the former
Yeah.
first lady.
John was even literally asked about security in the interview, like either
Yeah,
the day
and
of or
he
the day
said,
before.
People don't really bug you.
Yeah, he was like, oh, I'm just walking down the street, and people are like, John, how's the baby?
Aww.
Yeah, we'll get more into that. So, when he was arrested, his legal team wanted to plead insanity and say that he was in a schizophrenic state at the time of the murder. But as the trial got closer, he told his lawyers that he wanted to plead guilty because it was the will of God. So he got 20 to life with a promise that mental health treatment would be provided. And now, for the first 6 years of being incarcerated, he would decline interviews, and he says that he regrets the crime. He goes back and forth of saying, I did it to become famous, and I didn't do it to become famous, but he will say he did it to promote Catcher in the Rye.
Yeah, which there's this
Stupid.
one quote in particular where he says, I thought that by killing him, I would acquire his fame. And when I read that, I was like, that is honestly what you get when you mix a Capricorn and a Scorpio.
Yeah.
Well, and craziness.
And throw the little sprinkling of schizophrenia and crazy in there. He had started planning the murder only 3 months before he carried it out. The criteria for the murder was fame, but he chose John, again, like we were saying, because he knew that he wouldn't have to go through security like a president.
Mm-hmm.
He went to New York City in October to kill John, but he didn't go through with it. He like kind of panicked or whatever, and he went back to Hawaii and told his significant other that he was going to kill John Lennon.
Gloria.
Yeah.
Her name.
And so, but she didn't report it because
Did she not take it seriously?
she
or-
didn't take it seriously. But she,
Also,
I mean,
he was abusive towards
if
her.
yeah,
Okay.
he's not a good guy. He's not great. And like, if your husband or your man's coming home and being like, "I'm gonna kill John Lennon," you're a little like, okay, like, no, you're not. Like, you're not going to kill John Lennon.
She was
Like,
a very, like, quiet.
yeah. He also contemplated jumping off the Statue of Liberty to commit suicide.
Probably should have done that first.
Yeah. So the day of the morning, Chapman left his hotel room and left things that he wanted the police to find. The Dakota is where the Lennons lived, and it had security, but it wasn't, again, like some kind of...
Yeah, it was probably just like a doorman.
They had like a doorman, you know, they had actually, the night of the murder, he ended up not going to the secured entrance to, like, go into his house. He just went through the normal entrance. Like, his plan was just to go up the normal flight instead of going into, like, this back area that had, like, secured. So, but, like, normal non-famous people live in the Dakota, too. It wasn't just celebrities, So he, like, kind of staked out in front of the Dakota, like, all day. Like, he just was, like, hanging out in front of his house, which people did to see him. And so it wasn't, like, super weird that this guy was just standing out there waiting for John Lennon.
Well, yeah, he was having, like, weird interactions, too, with the other people that were standing out there
he's
waiting.
definitely a freak. So early in the morning, he was distracted and missed seeing John step out of a cab and enter the Dakota. And so later in the morning, he met Lennon's housekeeper, who was returning home from a walk with 5-year-old Sean. Chapman reached in front of the housekeeper to shake Sean's hand and said that he was a beautiful boy, quoting Lennon's song, Beautiful Boy, Darling Boy, which is one of my favorite of his songs, and it's one that he wrote for Sean when he was, like, baby. And it's, like, it's really hard to listen to now, like, because of the lyrics that are all, like, I can't wait to see you grow up and, like, see who you become, and it's, like, it's just really painful to know. And then the fact that he, like, quoted that song. So at 5 p.m., John and Yoko left to go to a recording session, and this part of it all is pretty famous because Chapman holds out a copy of Double Fantasy of the record and for John to sign, and amateur photographer Paul Gorish took a picture, which is a pretty famous picture now. You can see it. It's just John, like, signing this record, and Mark David Chapman's, like, right here. You know, like, watching him sign the record. And then, like, it's...
In interviews later, too, he was like, he was so nice about it.
Yeah. And then he says to... Mark David Chapman says to, like... Because I think there was a girl there as well that was like, hey, come hang out with us, because Paul Gorish left after that, but... Or he wanted her to ask him to go hang out with them, but she didn't.
Well, he's such a douche. He asked her out, like, for dinner, and she said no.
Oh, yeah.
And he, like, in one of his interviews, like, years after the crime...
If would have said yes, I would have never killed John Lennon.
Oh, yeah, I've heard that.
Which is ridiculous, because then at a later point in one of the interviews, he's like, no, I mean, if I hadn't done it then, I definitely would have done it later.
Right.
Either way, I would have done it. So it's like, get out of here,
he's just the worst. He's just not a good person. So John and Yoko return at 10:50 in their limo. They get out, they pass by him, because he's still out there. They pass by him and go towards the entrance of the Dakota when he fires 5 bullets at John and 4 hit him. And, like, 1 punctures his lungs, 1 gets, like, an artery, and he ends up dying. And
John was alone at the time?
No, he was with Yoko.
Oh, man,
so he and Yoko were walking up the steps, and she, like, held him, basically, as he did. And she's still, like, there's, like, famous pictures of, like, his glasses, because he has, like, those very famous glasses of them, like, shattered and covered in blood, and, like, but there's a little bit more information, but I can't. But I did want to share something that I found out. So on the day of the murder, singer David Bowie was appearing on Broadway in the play The Elephant Man. He says, I was second on his list, Bowie later said. Chapman had a front row ticket to The Elephant Man the next night. John and Yoko were supposed to sit front row for that show too. So the night after John was killed, there were 3 empty seats in the front row. I can't tell you how difficult that was to go on. I almost didn't make it through the performance. It, like, gave me chills.
Oh my gosh, can you imagine losing John Lennon and Bowie the same day?
I know. Well, it'd be one day and Bowie the day after. But the fact is, like, I mean, can you imagine your friend, like, because they were friends, like, getting horrifically murdered, and it's, like, looking out into this, like, audience, and it's, like, there's these 3 empty seats, and it's, like, that was John and Yoko, that was Mark David Chapman. Like, that man came to kill me, my friends came to support me, they're all affected forever, like, and they're not here, and, like, I have to perform, and
it could have been me.
And it could have been me, and I would have died. Like, I definitely would have been murdered, too. Like, so,
that's crazy.
That's Mark David Chapman.
Well, I guess we can move on to ours, then. You want to start a bit now?
Oh, sure.
Don't start with their names, by the way.
Our friend here's sun sign is Gemini. Typically, a Gemini they have, like, they're known for, like, I guess, like, their dualness, because it's, like, they're symbolized by the twins or whatever. So it's believed that they have, like, a lot of talents in both, like, practice and theory, whatever that means, but I don't know if this person did have many talents, and that they're very intelligent and quick-witted. The intelligence part, I don't really know about that, but quick-witted, I'd say, sure, why not? They're kind of funny. And in a way, they are interested in the world around them. Like, Geminis typically are. They quickly adapt to new situations. I do think that our person was good at thinking on their feet, and they're open to novel or like new things because they quickly see the advantages of using such things in their lives and for practical reasons. It also says that they like to share new things with people so that others can benefit from them as well. And I mean, I definitely think this person was a lot more private than that. I don't think they would have shared new ideas with other people. And in some respects, this person is social, and in others, like, they're not. I think growing up, they weren't very social, but as they got older, they were able to open up more. Geminis typically inspire and influence others with their charm and vigor, and I would say this person, not so much. No. They're, apparently Geminis are also ruled by Mercury, which gives them a talent for public speaking and writing, and gives them an active nature, and no. This person, not good at public speaking or being in front of people, kind of more shy, I would say.
Do they have an active nature, though?
Not really.
Are you like, maybe for their crimes?
Yeah, that's exactly what was in my...
Apparently they make great journalists and are creative advertisers, but definitely not this person. That's not... They kind of didn't really... They weren't, like, career-driven, unless maybe your career is being a murderer. Their manners, humor, and ease of solving problems often makes them seem shallow, which is actually typically a false assumption of Geminis. They're a lot deeper than they appear on the surface. And I would say maybe.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah. They are very focused on what they do, and as a result, they do it well.
Yeah.
And they don't boast about how hard they work. Definitely true of this person. They were not boasting.
Yeah.
They're not a
Had it
BTK.
on the DL?
Yeah. Another thing that makes them seem shallow is that they do not adhere to any one set of principles. So, like, they don't have, like, a specific guiding set of, like, principles or morals that they follow. They just kind of, like, do their own thing, and I definitely think this is true of this person. They don't follow the norm. And they're not afraid to admit mistakes to themselves or to others, and are often won over by the opinions of others through logic. And I definitely think that this person is willing to admit their mistakes to others and themselves, because like as soon as they got caught, they were like, "Oh, my bad." And they usually suffer from creative restlessness, and yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, I definitely think this person was restless, and they were like not comfortable in life.
Yeah. Let's get a little creative.
Yeah. Geminis are usually versatile, and often, and their versatility also often gets in the way of settling on a single like career. This person, not really. They're not career oriented. They kind of just went wherever the wind blew them. Like, yeah, they had like no like, I don't know, like direction in life really. They can find a place for themselves in any situation, which is not true of this person. They definitely felt like an outsider most of the time. They tend to seek new experiences to help them connect to all kinds of people. And this was sort of like once he was more of an adult. Like, I think as a youth, he like just really struggled with, I don't know, the world around him and who he was. And it wasn't until he got older where he kind of like embraced it and was able to like do these new things and like meet people. They never become fanatical or force their opinions on others. This is not true. This is a big no. Geminis are democratically minded, meaning everyone's opinion matters and everyone has a vote. Definitely not of this person. Now onto their moon sign. They're in Aries.
Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
interesting.
And so something that does apply to them is that during times of uncertainty, they're able to make choices and solve problems faster than normal. They also, another thing that applies is they might feel like life is like a battle and that they're under a continuous threat. Life's just hard for them and nothing goes right. Something that doesn't apply is a sense of peace may seem boring to them, and I think he might have liked, like if he could have felt a sort of peace, he would have enjoyed that maybe.
Yeah.
It also says that as a moon sign for Aries that they'd have like an astonishing temper, but it also like suddenly fade away. I don't really feel like he had a temper. He was like a
No,
pretty
I don't
mellow
think
dude.
so. Yeah.
But this person's rising sign is Libra. So for Libra, it does apply. They prefer tasks that are well thought out and that, taking in the opinions of others, may manifest as a hesitation, indecision, or opportunism.
This is my rising sign, Libra.
They usually prefer others to make decisions for them. This
Don't
person
think
didn't really
so.
have anyone else in their life who really cared enough to make opinion decisions
Yeah.
for them.
Little lonely panda.
Yeah. Something that they should do is set up a strong system of values and norms to follow and to make decision making easier in the future. Because they have a hard time making decisions, at least on the spot. I mean, this might have been helpful to him if he had some guidance in life. And something that I think really applied was, romantically, they usually choose self-centered and assertive partners that force them to make concessions, and what they should do is they should insist on respect and balance in a relationship. Yeah, this person's romantic life was not great, and they had some bad encounters, and so they kind of did take this advice, but to like an extreme. That's his.
And okay, so the original big one, almost a Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
And so, honestly, I felt, when I was looking into it, I felt that some Taurus aspects fit him better than Gemini. So, I'm just going to include, like, 3. Turn to the material world, hedonism, and physical pleasures. People born with their sun in Taurus are sensual and tactile, considering touch and taste the most important of all senses. Stable and conservative, this is one of the most reliable signs of the zodiac, ready to endure and stick to their choices until they reach the point of personal satisfaction. And it also said Taurus is kind of, because they're stubborn and willing to stick to things to the end, they're good employees. That's wrong. Incorrect. Yeah, so any guesses?
Is it a serial killer?
Yes.
Yes.
It's the American.
Yes.
Yeah.
What
I had
time?
to think.
What time period?
Tell us the time period, but tell us in an item of clothing.
Well, he's active for a long time.
Oh.
So,
Real
from like
killer time.
bell bottoms to scrunchies.
Oh, okay. So like 70s to 90s.
Typical serial
See, that was
killer
clear, it was
times.
clear.
Yes.
What part of the country?
Yes.
America?
No.
Oh my gosh.
Midwest.
Midwest.
Yeah, Midwest.
Did they kill just women?
No.
Didn't kill any women.
Oh. We've got. Okay.
Is it Jeffrey Dahmer?
Oh
It
yeah. Absolutely
Dahmer did
terrible
Dahmer.
employee. When with the Taurus part, and it was just like, oh, they really love touch and taste in their thing. And I'm like,
Ugh.
I know Tauruses are like known to be like hangry too. Like you don't want a Taurus to be hungry.
oh my gosh! And yet, definitely, they do not seek out about the whole like seeking out someone to like dominate them. I'm like, hard no.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I learned about him was that, like, so after he's out of the army and he's, like, living in Wisconsin, right? Because he's a Milwaukee cannibal.
Yeah.
So he's, like, living it up, and he's going to, like, gay nightclubs. He's, like, really embraced his sexuality. He's like, I am a gay man. And so he is going to nightclubs, picking up dudes, and bringing them home. And apparently he had some, like, bad encounters. I mean, it's like still like part of like just like gay culture. It's just like a big time hookup culture, and he was looking for something more long term, and so he like wasn't getting that, and so he just like went hard and insisting on respect because he just wanted a sex slave. He's like, want a zombie sex slave that's not gonna do nothing.
Right. Although it was, I think, at least Wikipedia says it was around the time when he was a teenager when he started fantasizing about a really submissive partner. I mean, didn't have a great childhood. His mom was insane. He didn't really feel like his dad was around for him.
Didn't his
like
mom
emotionally
have, like,
checked out.
bipolar disorder? I feel like she had
She
something.
had something crazy. She was a hypochondriac who suffered from depression, demanded constant attention, and like worked herself into like anxiety over super normal, trivial things, and it was just a wreck mess. And because his parents were like bickering or fighting all the time, and there was, you know, all up in the air about divorce, like they were paying attention to each other more than they were to him, and so he felt neglected.
And then not to mention throw a little brother in the mix.
Yeah. So Dahmer, as an early child, really wanted to know how animals worked. He wanted to see how they fitted together. He wanted to see all
Talk about him, Dahmer, or you, Dahmer?
Yes. So, apparently when he was a kid, his father, it was like his first, I don't know, encounter with some sort of interest in dead animals. His father was taking animal bones out from underneath their family home, and he was really drawn to the sound that they made when they clacked together. He was like that sound. I want to hear it again. As a child, he kind of did have friends when he was like in elementary school, but then he got this double hernia surgery, and then for some reason that was dropped off with friends at that point.
Well, because the surgery kept him at home.
Yeah.
And, like, I also heard that it's, like, part of the issue is, like, where he lived. Like, they lived at, like, the top of, like, a hill in a cul-de-sac where there weren't any other kids to hang out with.
Yeah.
So he had a hard time making friends.
Right. Yeah, so he started collecting roadside kill, dissecting them, putting them in jars, and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, kind of crazy. So in high school, like at 14, he started drinking. He started drinking beer and like hard liquor.
So crazy.
He used to be like an average, like okay student. You know, teachers thought he was super like polite and stuff. But then, like, you know, tanked.
Showing up to school just wasted.
Crazy. I think right before he graduated, a teacher caught him drinking out in the parking lot and was like, "What are you doing?" And Dahmer basically was like, "I don't know, I've talked to the counselor about my problems and whatever, this is like my medicine, it helps me get through it." Like, and the teacher's like, "Okay." During high school was when he had this fascination with a jogger who he saw like run by every morning. He's like, "I want that jogger." I mean, he started having like fantasies about this dude, and then the fantasies kind of came together with his like animal dissections, and then it, you know, slow decline from there. Anyway, at one point he wanted to murk this guy, but the day he decided to go like wait this out,
because he'd been watching him for weeks. Right?
Yeah, when he decided to follow through with it, the guy decided that day to like not run. He also,
Miracle.
at one point, when in his teenage years, he had a brief relationship with another guy, and that was normal, and nothing happened to him. But I think that was like before the fantasies about doing things to people was pretty bad. Yeah, so he didn't go to college or anything, and then
He joined the army, right?
yeah, he joined the army. So he got discharged from the army, I think, for alcoholism. But at least two people came forward at some point and were just like, yeah, he like raped me like a lot.
Aww.
And so the army honorably discharged him because they didn't think that he was
Also,
going to be a harm to regular people.
Dahmer was jacked. He started lifting weights in high school.
Yeah.
So
Kind of crazy. So he, like, after he left the army, he lived with his grandmother, and he started meeting people at gay bars and bringing them back home, and then,
grandma's house.
yeah, and then, like, I think the first one, he got blackout drunk.
He
and,
usually got blackout drunk. When
right,
he
but so he was like, "Oh, we're gonna have a fun time." He got blackout drunk, and he woke up, and the guy had his, like, chest beaten in, and he, like, strangled to death, and was, like, really dead, and he was like, "Oh." Oops.
You know what Dahmer did? He threw that body out with the trash. That was like his main way of getting rid of
liquefied
bodies.
the flesh and like ground up the bones and stuff. But
Yeah,
he kept the
in
skull.
but then he put the trash bags on the street to be picked up.
Yeah. But he kept the head.
Liquefied?
So yeah, to get all the flesh off of it, so he like used acid and stuff to like get rid of all the flesh, and then he'd like smash all the bones up super fine. But he'd keep the head. Not to have sex with, but as like masturbation fuel. I had to think about, and he kept that skull for like a while.
Is that the one he took with him to work?
No, that was a different one. Yeah, that's just like how it was for a while. At one point, there was this guy who was at this gay bar, and he wasn't like intending to find someone that night to kill, but this guy, right before Dahmer was about to leave, just came over, started chatting with him, and Dahmer was like, "Oh my gosh, you are beautiful." He took him back home, and like they had sex, and then he killed him. Dahmer, like, said, like, this man was exceptionally beautiful. So, not only kept his head, but also kept his genitalia. And then, like, mummified it. And then that's the one that he kept in his work locker. So he kept them for, like, a long time.
Yeah, because he lived with grandma for a while, and then eventually
And then she kicked him out because she was like, you keep bringing home young men super late, and then also it smells like rotting flesh. He's like, oh,
it smells
sorry.
like death in here. And he's like,
I'm so curious about this penis in a jar.
I don't think it was in a jar. I think it was mummified.
he had a lot of penises.
Yeah, and he kept a lot of heads. That was his thing, was, like, keeping people's heads. Anyway, at one point, Dahmer gets arrested because he, like, fondles a 13-year-old boy. He was gonna have this kid, like, come, like, for, like, pose for pictures or something, and then ended
that
up,
was
like...
one of his lures.
Well, yeah, he'd, like, pay people money for that, and they'd be like, sure, it's a lot of $50 quests. I don't, the number was always $50, I don't know why. Anyway, and then ended up fondling this kid lives, and Dahmer's, like, arrested for it. Well, he doesn't go to jail. He is put to work, which I guess could be in jail, but whatever. And he's on probation for a while. Anyways, later, Dahmer encounters this kid's brother. The brother takes up a deal to go, he's like, Dahmer pays him money, I guess, again, for, like, photographs or something. This is the first time that he starts drilling holes in people's head. He pours hydrochloric acid on his, like, frontal lobe. So the kid, and this is the one that escapes. And so, kid goes out in the street, and...
Naked.
Fully
nude.
Dahmer was doing something, noticed the kid wasn't there anymore, went outside, the kid is surrounded by these 3 ladies who are like, there's something wrong with him.
Oh, I need to say something.
Yeah.
I watched an interview with one of the girls who found this kid, and she was like with her mom or something, she was like trying to help this kid because he, like, couldn't talk, and he was just nude out on the street, and she was, like, trying to help, like, what is going on? She's like, she gets someone to call the cops, and, like, it was just devastating to, like, watch her talk about it, because it's, like, she just feels so much, like, she feels so bad about it, because she's like, I should have done something, I should have done more, but, like, I mean, honestly, she did all she could.
It's the cops' fault.
Yeah.
Well,
she was African-American, living in a bad neighborhood, like, they didn't care. Right. And the kid was a person of color as well. I think it was, like, Filipino.
I think so. I believe he was Filipino.
Well, yeah, so this kid is surrounded by these ladies and Dahmer's like, I'm sorry, like, I'll take him back inside, all this stuff. And they're like, no, we've already called the cops. And he's like, oh, okay, well, you know, I guess I'll just talk to the officer. It's, like, totally fine. I think he claimed that this kid was his brother.
White
and
boys
then,
be like,
no. To the ladies, he said it was his brother or something.
No one's gonna believe that.
And then
was the whitest dude
the cops get there. Yeah, that's when he's like, oh, sorry, this is my young boyfriend, and he's just, like, a little bit drunk, and the cops are like, oh, okay,
well, the cops really are like, you gay.
Yeah,
right, and that's when the ladies are like, you know, this kid's bleeding from his head. The cops
He's bleeding from his anus as well.
Oh, yeah. And then the cops told the ladies, like, butt out. Like, don't talk about it. And then they were forced to leave, and then Dahmer went back and, like, killed this kid.
Yeah, the woman, she felt so bad about it.
Yeah, pretty terrible.
One of the things she said, she's like, I wish I'd just taken the kid with me. And she was so mad at the cops because she's like, this person was obviously a child, and these cops just didn't even care. I mean, Dahmer was, like, kind of weirdly smart in the fact that he was like, oh, I'll move out into this black neighborhood. Like, he was, like, the only white dude, like, in the whole building. He was nice to his neighbors. Like, one of his neighbors was like, I couldn't believe it. Like,
oh, wait, but the people living in his building did send multiple complaints. About smell and hearing chainsaw noises at random times. And they were like, and then he's like, oh, like, I'm so sorry. The first time he was like, my freezer broke down, that's the smell. The second time he said, oh, a bunch of my tropical fish died, I'll get it sorted.
Well,
I'm like, why is your tropical fish smelling so bad and they're still in your house?
How long are you keeping this dead creature?
I know, but but in reality, he had a huge, like one of those big blue barrels that he was just filling with body parts. He had, like, a corpse in the bed. He had built this, like, thing to, like, put body parts on. Like, I think he wanted to make it out of body parts. So it's like shrine. He had, like, a ton of penises in his fridge, like, it was no big deal. It was just, like, a lot. And, like, these people, like, who lived by were, like, he's, like, yeah, they were just, like, blown away when they found out. They were like, whoa.
And he eats people.
Yeah. There's one lady who was like, he gave me a sandwich one time, and it wasn't human.
He worked at a chocolate factory.
No, it's crazy.
I think all the time about how many people ate chocolate bars that he had anything to do with. While he had a head in his locker.
He would always get, like, blackout drunk, like, almost every time he did it. And, like, there was even times where he would, like, bring someone home and, like, be in the middle of, like, about to kill them, and then be like, I don't have any booze, and, like, leave. Like, that was, like, one of the issues. Like, that's how the Filipino boy, I think, got away. It's like, he left the house to get more booze, and the kid got out.
I do know how he got arrested.
Oh, tell us, Dahmer.
So basically, Dahmer, not me, approached 3 men on the street and offered one of them, like, a substantial amount of money to, again, come back into his apartment to pose for some photos. And so one of them, Edwards, consented. He was like, sure, you know. Anyway, so he goes into Dahmer's apartment, and then Dahmer, like, handcuffs him something and is, like, brandishing a knife. So Edwards eventually talks him down and is like, hey, like, I'm your friend. Like, everything's fine, you know. And Dahmer is sort of getting comfortable with this guy. And eventually, Edward's just asking, like, oh, can I go to the bathroom, you know, or do air conditioning, or a place with air conditioning, maybe, and Dahmer doesn't let him out of his sight. Eventually, Dahmer undoes the handcuffs, and, you know, maybe he's not holding the knife anymore, and so Edwards, at one point, when it looks like it's safe enough, punches Dahmer in the face, and, like, runs out, immediately finds the cops. And the cops are like, oh, yeah, I can't remember if Edward still had a handcuff on his hand, or if it was just, like, bruises from it. He's like, some freak just, like, handcuffed me in his apartment, and it was getting really weird, and he had a knife, so, the officers go check out the place, and Dahmer's like, yep, I totally handcuffed him. It's like, okay. So they asked to take a look around the place. In his room, they find a bunch of Polaroids of human bodies, in various stages of dismemberment, and then they open the fridge and there's a freshly severed human head. They're like, what the fetch? And they find, like, so many body parts everywhere. There's a total of 7 skulls. Some of them are painted, some of them are bleached.
Yeah, some of the arresting officers, like, getting in there and getting evidence and stuff and collecting body parts were, like, couldn't tell that some of the penises were fake because they were painted.
Yeah, there's, like, blood drippings in the bottom of his, like, refrigerator, 2 human hearts, arm muscles, like, wrapped in, like, plastic bags, like, on shelves. They discovered a whole torso in his freezer, human organs, and then there's 2 entire skeletons in his apartment, a pair of severed hands, 2 severed and preserved penises, a mummified scalp, and in the 57-gallon drum, 3 further dismembered torsos that were dissolving in acid. So many things.
Yeah, in an apartment building. It's just mind-blowing. And it also, what I think is mind-blowing, is how similar Dennis Nielsen and Jeffrey Dahmer are.
Yeah.
Like,
they were soulmates.
They really were.
Star-crossed lovers.
I know. Because they both like to take pictures. They both loved a good corpse. Like, they love the apartment life.
What sign was Dennis Nielsen?
Sagittarius.
He's a Gemini.
Mm-hmm.
They could
To date each
I
other?
think so.
Yeah.
They have, I
I
mean,
see a Sag with a Gemini.
yeah, beyond all else, they have similar interests, like you said, so.
And they were both in the military at one point.
Okay.
It's crazy to me. But yeah, and I also watched interviews with Jeffrey Dahmer's father. Oh, he was like such an old man, and he was so sad, and he's so heartbroken. He blames himself. He's heartbroken for his son who was murdered in prison, and like, if I had done more, if I had been a better father, maybe this wouldn't have happened, and he feels so bad for the other families who lost their kids. Like, he's like, ugh.
Yeah, Dahmer ended up killing 19 men.
Yeah, usually younger men, because his type was people of color.
Hairless.
Who are hairless.
Yeah.
White men are generally hairier.
Well, thank you everyone for your hard research. You guys can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Scary Movie Clubcast and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. See you next movie night, and don't forget, there are 40 days till Halloween.
Bye. almost. I'm sorry. I almost just read their names. I went to start like reading the first thing on my notes. I almost just said their name right out.
You will not guess it.
Like I started on the first syllable and I was like, oh.
You won't guess it because I'm going to tell you.
You guys are never gonna guess it because the murderer is this person.
Man, I would have just been like, I can't believe I'm the one who did it. Okay.
Hi, Peppy Weppy.
Virgos are nope.
She relates to this person.
Virgos are
Apparently.